Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Ducksy Gaming and a new series called Casual Exile. Now the main reason for creating a new series is that Trade League for me is pretty much dead, and it is for a lot of other people after 1.5 to 2 months, so I wanted something interesting to do to try and keep the game fresh whilst providing new content for me. Now if it's popular, it's something I can do every league with different builds, and we can always take polls around what builds to concentrate on. So the idea of the series is to see how long it takes us to clear the Atlas and beat A8 Cirrus with a few rules and stipulations included. Now I'm expecting it to be quite a tough challenge as I'm not experienced playing this minion build that we're picking. I've done a couple of series in the past which is just focused on Lightning Strike Raider, which is like my bread and butter, but I want to just switch things up and see what it's like to level a build I don't have any familiarity with. So each day is going to represent 1.5 hours worth of play, and I'll try and release a video every day, and it's really going to show how I tackle each day, how I set goals, how I aim to progress characters with short playing times. So I've not included the campaign within this as everyone does this at their own pace and no one should really need help getting through the campaign. It also does not make particularly interesting or exciting viewing. I will say with the minion build that I've picked, it was a breeze. It was really easy to get through the story. We run a lot of defensive auras, which makes the build really tanky. The boss in single target is really good. The actual clear is not the best speed in the world, but it's fine to get you through at a decent time. Now I know people have done similar series before, and I've always liked the idea of trying something myself. It was just finding something that fit with how much time I had to play the game and whether it's going to hold my interest and enjoyment. So let's touch on what the rules are for this series. It's fairly simple. Basically, the rules were pick a build I'm not familiar with, so I've gone with minion skeletons, although at this stage it's just a very generic minion build. I'm not allowed to play for more than 1.5 hours a day, and it has to all be done on SSF. So the minion build at the moment is really generic. It's just a 4-link skeletons, a 4-link zombies, and a 4-link SRS. Basically just packing in as many damage minions as I can, because at the moment I'm running all defensive auras of determination, discipline, and vitality. Eventually we'll go block some offensive auras once we specialise in one particular type of minion, but I really need to get at least a 5 or a 6 link to get that going. So the goal for the first episode is we've just finished Kitava, so now we've got 90 minutes to play for our first day. The goal is to complete 9 to 10 heists, get our map completion done for the T1 maps, and really that's all I'm looking to do. The reason we're completing a lot of heists to start with is to get our currency up so that we've got currency to actually roll maps. Also, on the off chance we get a Dead Reckoning gem, we can turn this build really early on into a Skelly Mage build. But let's jump in and see what the first 90 minutes has in store. So the first hour pretty much, maybe 50 to 60 minutes was just heisting, so I'm not going to show too much footage from this because it's fairly dull. But we'll run through here where we've just triggered the alarm. And as you can see, again, the clear on the way out is pretty decent. This was the first heist I did, or one of the first few heists I did after getting to the end of the game. So it's not too bad, and I'm happy with where it is at the moment. So I'm not going to show too much footage of this because it is just heist after heist after heist, and it's nothing particularly interesting. The only thing to note is we dropped a pair of Deerstalkers on the second heist. Would have been great if we were doing a trap build. We're not, so they're in the stash in case we ever re-roll at any point to something else. But we'll skip forward to some later footage when we actually hit maps. So we've got our first research, so we'll see how the clear is in here. As I say, clear has been the problem with this build, not necessarily single target when there's too much, but this seems to be okay so far. Like, the mobs aren't hugely dense, you know, look, as you can see that pack there, they don't go down amazingly quick. That's the reason we've got SRS in as well, because the burn damage does a bit of AoE, so it clears packs quite quick. If we just had skeletons, because we don't have any splash or anything on them at the moment, it would take forever to clear any packs. Once I'm able to specialise a bit, we'll drop one or the other. And as you can see, single target, considering we're on a couple of 4 links, is actually pretty decent. So we'll get them down straight away, interrogate them, and see what drops. Yeah, a couple of items, not too bad. And then the last thing I thought I'd highlight from day one is a boss fight where there's lots of ads, because this is where this build, you can struggle with boss DPS. It's a tier 1 map, so no matter what happens, we've got enough life and energy shield that we should survive anyway. But in fights like this, where we don't have any signal prayer or anything set up where we can target a boss, your minions do what they want to do. So your skellies might run off and fight the enemies in the background. Your zombies should stay near you, but they don't do a lot of damage. And your SRS, again, if they scatter, they don't do a lot of damage. Individually, they're really weak, but we can have 20 of them up. So when there's just a boss with no ads, you can absolutely melt him because you've got 8 to 9 skeletons, 7 to 8 zombies, and then 20 SRS. You can literally melt bosses within seconds. This is a good kind of showcase of the struggles you can have with this build, and this is just a tier 1 map. So that's why it's really important that we try and focus as quickly as we can on one type of minion, get some sort of signal prey set up so that we can then target individual enemies, or predator support, whatever it's called now, just so we can target individual enemies, and then we won't have these issues. We can just set one target on one enemy, clear that enemy out, and then we can clear up any ads that get in the way. But that's really all I wanted to show from day 1. So we'll move on to summarize how the day went and what we're looking to do in the next few days. So we finished day 1, character finishes on level 73 with a whopping 5 Atlas completion. All our gear is just from the story and a couple of heists that we completed. But actually the gear we've ended up with is not too bad, as we cap resistances and it has a decent amount of life, energy shield and some armor. Not bothered adding inspectors into the build yet, but we are leveling them in our offhand. We also had a little beauty drop in Act 8, which will definitely come in handy, which was an Empower gem, so we'll get that leveled up and see if we can utilise that later on in the build. The goal for the next day is really just going to be farming for Dead Reckoning, complete more heists, finish the 3rd lab because I realised I've actually forgot to complete it, and then hopefully, which is going to be the main goal, is get a T3 map done so we can unlock Zana, and that then speeds up our Atlas progression massively. But the goals will always be covered in more detail in the next video. But there's a POB included in this video to show what it was like when I got to maps, and then every 2 or 3 videos will release an updated POB of where I am. I don't think it's worth doing every day because, especially as we get more on into the series, we're not really going to make even a level in an hour and a half's worth of play. But that's it for the first episode. This should be short and snappy with a mix of gameplay and just me commenting on the build in general. Conclusions of day 1. I didn't think I particularly liked playing a minion build, but because this one's fairly active in that we're using SRS and skeletons, it's actually quite enjoyable. The clearing is not amazing because I don't have any way at the moment of controlling my minions. So when there's loads and loads of enemies, it might be that each minion focuses a different enemy and it takes ages to clear them. But single targeting bossing is really, really good. So I'm looking forward to what we can do in the next few days on this build. As always, thank you very much for watching. Take care and we'll see you in the next video.